This lecture is based on chapter 1 and chapter 3 of the textbook, that is Economics of Platform by Belleflamme and Peitz. So, this plan is that we are going to talk about network effect, that primarily that we did in last video. So, there would be a little bit of repetition, but mostly the treatment is going to be different. Then within the network effect, we will talk about within group as well as cross group network effect, and we will see how within group network effect leads to attraction loop and how cross group network effect leads to either attraction spiral or attraction repulsal pendulum or attraction spillover. So, these are the three possibility on the side of cross group network effect. Then we will get into some more definitions of platform. It is very important to establish what a platform is, and there is no problem in saying that still there is no unanimity. Different authors treat platform differently, and these definitions of course would become meaningful as we progress in the course, and we will also talk about typologies. Then we will get into demand for network good, and that is what I alluded to in the last class, but in this week we are going to do it more formally. So, I should add the topics are in a way similar to first week topic, but here the treatment is more formal, and we will also have some of the case studies to help us understand these topics well. So, let us start with the first topic is that within group network effect. By now we are familiar with what network effect is, that when I am a user and my utility increases or decreases because someone else is also consuming this good, then we can say that this good has network effect. So, here we are talking about within group network effect, and particularly when within group network effect is positive. We say that an attraction loop is generated when within group network effect is present in the positive form. So, let us say here that here are some people, different potential user, and this user decides to consume this particular good A. Just because this person is consuming this good, it is generating positive network effect within group network effect for all other user. So, some user B which earlier thought that good is not that useful may become consumer of this good because network effect may induce this kind of consumption. We will see through different example, and the first example is that we are going to talk about a case study based on Google Map. So, of course, more people use Google Map becomes better for all users. Why? Let us look at it. When I was preparing the slide, I just typed on my Google Map my local address. I work at IIT Kanpur, and I said my destination is Lucknow, Uttar Pradesh, and immediately Google Map gave me two options. One is via NH 27, it's not important, and second is via Raebareli Road. And for both option, they are approximately calculating the time taken from my workplace to Lucknow. If you do it at some other time, it will show you some other number, not necessarily 2 hours 40 minutes or 2 hours 43 minutes. Okay. Why? How they are calculating it in real time and varying? Because there are different people driving on the way from Kanpur to Lucknow, and Google Map is not only giving them direction, but also taking their location and different data, and roughly it is able to calculate how much time does it take to travel at this particular point, travel 1 kilometer at this particular point. So, what is happening? Because the presence of a driver here many driver here, as number of driver increases, the accuracy of time taken to travel to Lucknow also increases. So what's happening? The presence of other drivers, other users using the Google Map improves my experience on Google Map, and that's why we can say there is a positive within group network effect. So what's happening? Let us look at, this is what attraction loop is here. More users will lead to more information and Google Map will become more useful, and if it becomes more useful, it would attract more users to Google Map, and so that's why creating an attraction loop. So Google is not doing anything different. Now the use of Google Map increases just because more people are using Google Map. So it has some impact, and one can say that impact on platform choices. Let us say there are 3-4 different map apps available on your phone. Of course, one is Google Map. Second, if you are using Apple, then there is Apple Map. Then India's own Navic system is there. Then there is a Map My Trip or something, Map My India, something like, there is another app, I don't remember the name exactly. So all these maps, but let us say that experience on Google Map is better. It will attract more people to Google Map, which will further improve the quality of Google Map, dragging or attracting more people who are using other apps to Google Map. So it would lead to winner take all. The app that is better in the beginning will attract more and more and more and more people, and everyone will join that particular map. So we will look at a simple mathematical model to illustrate this thing in the next slides. But wait, I should also add that typically we do not find such a thing. Even for map, as I told you that there are different apps available. So typically we don't find winner take all situation in most of the cases. It is too early to understand why we don't find such a case, but our aim is also to understand that why don't we find winner take all situation. So let us look at the simple model that we were talking about, that's winner take all. Let us say that there are two platforms, for example A and B, and there are, let's say, 1000 users, for example, and they arrive randomly in the market and they pick either A or B. They should not be picking both. Let us say using platform is costly, so they just want to use one of them. And each user has two kind of utility. One is standalone utility. The way we can understand standalone utility is that this utility a user gets that is free of all network effect. It doesn't depend on any other user. Okay. So let us say out of 1000 people, there are 500 people who like A more, and there are 500 people who like B. So in all the way, both these platforms are symmetric. So each one of them prefer A when there is no other user and they are the first one picking A or B. 500 of them will pick A, 500 of remaining they will pick B. Let us say that there is also network effect present. Okay, let us say that for each user, and each user is symmetric, the users who like A, their standalone utility from A is, let us say, 10. And people who like B, their standalone utility from B is 10. For A, we can say standalone utility from B is 0, and for people who like B, standalone utility from A is 0. But each of them also get network effect. if there is one user present on A, each one of them, each of 1000 will get 1 unit of utility. And this is despite whether they like A or B. Okay. If one user, if in other word, if NA user are present on A, a new person coming to choose the platform A or B gets NA utility from A, and similarly we can say at that time NB users are present on B, that person gets NB utility. So consider a situation that it so happened that first 10 people who came to the market, they all like A. So it means A already has 10 people and B has 0 people. Now the 11th person comes who likes B more than A. If he joins A, his utility is going to be 10 because there are 10 people on A, and his utility from joining B would be 10. So he is, even though 11th person likes B, he will value A or B equally. If we had changed the situation slightly, instead of 10 we said, let us say A has 11 people already and B has 0, and 12th person is arriving. His utility from joining A would be 11 and his utility from joining B would be 10. What would he do? Of course he would join A because A gives 11 utility and B gives just 10 utility. So now everyone, because now there is 11 person on A and 0 person on B, even if next person comes who likes B more than A, he would end up joining A, and this would be cascading, there would be a cascading effect and everyone will end up joining A, and that's why we have winner take all. So in this simple model it's possible, in some of the places it happens, but at many places we in more practical and real life example we don't see it. We will come back and revisit this question, that why we don't observe this often, because this is as simple as this. Okay. So this is a very nice simple model to understand winner take all. So that was about attraction loop and that was about network effect within a group. Now we are going to move to network effect that we get because of cross group. So we are going to talk about cross group network effect. So of course when we were talking about attraction loop, we had only one group present. Now when we talk about cross group, at least we need to have two groups. For simplicity, in all the graph, and all these graphs have been taken from our textbook, the graph, this style graph that you see in our presentation today, they all have been taken from the textbook. So here we will assume for simplicity that there are only two groups present and we can call them A and B. So the way, here is a platform, here is group A and here you have group B. So what is going to happen? Let us say a new person joins group A. So this indicates the cross group network effect, and this cross group network effect can be positive, can be negative and can be neutral. Similarly, here is the cross group effect from B to A. It can be positive, it can be negative, or it can be anything. And in the last week's class we saw that it doesn't have to be symmetric. So it's possible that this side from A to B we get positive effect and here we get negative effect. So here we are going to see the play. If cross group network effect is positive on both sides, what we get is called attraction spiral. We will get into it. How do we get this attraction spiral? If network group is network effect, cross group network effect is positive on one side, let us say from A to B it is positive and B to A is negative. What does it mean? That if one person enters group A, it will have positive effect on group B in the sense that someone would like to enter group B, not necessarily one person, maybe half a person, on the proportional term maybe 2%, depends on the value. So that is a positive effect. What is the negative effect? If one person enters group B, then it creates a negative impact on group A and someone would like to leave. So this is the negative effect. Third case, we will see that on one side A to B it is positive and B to A it is neutral. Okay. And then another possibility is that it is negative on both sides. If it is negative on both sides, then we don't need to study, because then it would be a good idea to separate these two groups. The presence of both the group on the same platform would not bring anything positive for both the groups. So they would be better off, or if there is an intermediaries acting as a platform or as a dealer, that intermediary would be better off by separating the A side of business and B side of business. There is no point of keeping both the sides together. So let us start with attraction spiral. So a very simple model we have here. We can look at the graph from the previous. We can say here A and B, here it is positive, and from B to A it is positive. Let us say, as we have already said, A has NA member and NB is the number of members in group B, and the beta A is we will assume all betas are greater than 0 in our discussion, if not just in this slide, in all the slide. So beta A is positive, beta B is positive. Anyway, we are talking about that A generates positive impact on B and B generates positive impact on A. So let us say, let us bring one person here, additional one person here. This beta A, beta B can be less than 1 also. So what does it mean? That if one more person joins in A, it will attract beta A person in B. Or if 10 people, let us say for example beta A is equal to half, so if 10 people join A, then it would induce 5 users to join B. Of course, here we are assuming in this simple setting that only thing that is important for A is number of people present in B, and what is important for users in group B, the number of people, number of users present in A. This happens only in simple model. The real life is way more complicated, but just to understand, we will keep on assuming this. So one person has entered group A. Now let us see the impact. This one in A will bring beta A in B, and because beta A is B group is also generating positive impact on A, beta A will generate beta A multiplied by beta B in A. So just because one person has entered A, it attracts beta A users in B, and because B group members are generating positive impact on A, it would generate beta A plus beta B member in A. And because A this has increased, it will further increase beta square A. How did I get beta square A beta B? That is, beta A is impact of one person. Now how many persons are here? The persons here are beta A, beta B, and this would give us this particular entity. So in B, and this will continue. This beta square A, beta B will attract beta square A, beta square B. One more time I can tell you how did I get beta square A, beta square B, because number of new attracted user is beta square A multiplied by beta B, and each one of them are generating attracting beta B user. So this beta B multiplied by beta B will become beta square B. Here is beta square A. And similarly now here beta square beta cube A, beta square B, and this will continue. So just because one person has entered in A, the number of users increased in A going to be 1 plus beta A, beta B, beta square A, beta square B, beta cube A, beta cube B, and so on. And how many people we will get in beta? That's going to be beta A, then we will have beta square A, beta B, and then beta cube A, beta square B, and so on. This is what we need to evaluate. So let us do this calculation. So what we have, let us say we are evaluating K is equal to 1 plus S, S square, S cube, and so on. What we can do, how to sum it up? We can multiply the whole equation with S. What do we get? K will become Sk, and we will just write 1 multiplied S is going to be S, S multiplied by S is going to be S square multiplied by S is going to be Sq, and so on. And then we will subtract Sk from K, and we can put here minus minus. This will cancel. Everywhere other things will get cancelled. We will get K minus Sk is equal to 1, or 1 minus S multiplied by K is equal to 1, or K therefore is going to be 1 minus S. Now we need to figure out how many new users are in group A, because one more person has joined, and that we have already got 1 plus beta A, beta B, beta square A, beta square B, beta cube A, beta cube B, and so on. This can be put in this format, 1 plus S, S square, where S is equal to beta A, beta B, and therefore this sum is going to be 1 divided by 1 minus beta A, beta B. Okay. And similarly, so number of people increased in group A is going to be 1 divided by 1 minus beta A and beta B, and what we can have for KB, that is beta A, then we have beta square A, beta B, then we have beta cube A, beta square B, and so on. So if we take beta A as common, we are left with so on, and this we have just calculated. So we are getting beta A divided by 1 minus beta A, beta B. So for example, let us say that beta A is half and beta B is 1/3. What does it mean? That if 10 more people enter in group A, the final number is going to be different by 1 divided by 1 minus half multiplied by 1/3 multiplied by 10, and this will be equal to 12. So 10 people, entry of 10 people will result in an increase of 12 people, and similarly here it's going to be 12 multiplied by 1 by 2. No one has entered in group B, but it will lead to an increase of 6 people, and that's what attraction spiral is. What happens? That an increase in B impacts B, B is also generating positive cross group network effect. So it will further increase A, which will further increase B, and this is the spiral that would get created, and so number will increase further than what we began with. So that is the impact. Now let us move to attraction repulsion pendulum. Here what happens? That on one side the cross group network effect is positive, A to B is positive, but B to A is negative. The take is attraction is not always mutual. For example, we had talked about news media. So, platform is, let us say, Hindustan Times. On A side is news, news reader, people who are buying newspaper, and on the B side is the people, the companies who advertise on newspaper. So, as there are more people reading the news, it would generate positive cross group network effect on the ad giver side, because people who are giving ad, they would like their ad to reach to more and more people. So, this is the positive effect. But people who are interested in reading news, we can assume it may not be the case all the time, but they do not like ad. So, if newspaper has less news, more ad, many of them will drop out, and therefore it is negative. So, we do not have to do anything further for the model. What we had assumed earlier, that beta A is half and beta B is 1/3. Both were positive in the attraction spiral part. Here what is happening, that one side it is plus and the other side it is negative. So, why we call it attraction repulsion pendulum? If one person enters the group A, it would make group B more attractive of economic agent of that type. So, some of them would enter it, but as more agent enter in group B, it will make group A less attractive. So, this will generate a negative impact and it will cause some user to drop out. So, you see, this is on one side it is attraction, on other side it is repulsion, and as some people drop out, this effect is positive, it will make some agent drop out here too, but agent dropping out here will generate, now it will make group A more attractive for potential user. So, more people would like to join group A. So, it is swinging between attraction and repulsion, and that is why we are calling it attraction repulsion pendulum. So, let us say if 10 people come to group A, what would be the impact? On group A, we can say 1 divided by beta A, beta B. So, this is going to be 1 divided by 1 minus half multiplied by minus 1 by 3. So, it is going to be 1 plus 1 by 6. So, this is going to be 6 by 7. So, if 10 people join, ultimately 10 multiplied by 6 divided by 7 are left with group A. So, in fact, number is less than 10. How about group B? The group B will have, because there are 10 multiplied by 6 by 7 people are finally left with, here this is going to be half multiplied by 10 multiplied by 6 by 7. So, 30 by 7 new advertiser will join group B. Another way to look at it is going to be, let us say one person joins group B. What would be its impact? It will definitely lead to a reduction in number of agent belonging to group A. I leave it to you to calculate. You will see that it will lead to a decrease. Here what is happening, because an agent is entering in group A, ultimately the number in group A and number in group B both are going up. But if you will see that if one more agent enters in group B, ultimately group A will have fewer economic agents. So, this is attraction repulsion pendulum. What would be the example? Of course, news media is one example. Another is operating system. Typically, you know, there are malware writer, they write bad programs, and so of course more users will generate positive cross network effect for malware writer, but more malware writer would be bad for user. So here the effect is negative. Now let us come to attraction spillover. This is for completeness. Here one group is positively attracted by the other, but the other group does not care, so no impact, that no effect one see from the other side. So let us say A is professional, we can say professionals, and B is amateurs. So more professional, in any system, let us say that there is a help group and only professionals can help noobs. So then professionals will generate positive cross group effect. How about amateurs? Professionals don't care about amateurs, so there is no effect that amateurs would generate for professional. So this is called attraction spillover. It is in a way attraction loop that, so instead of amateurs entering here and generating positive attraction loop, an increase in A is generating some positive effect, but here is a dampener that is completely damping out all the effect. So there is no flow of effect from B to A, and this is what we get in the attraction spillover. So far we have been talking about within group or cross group network effects, and as I told you during the last week lecture, that within group is also called direct and cross group is also called indirect network effect. So sometimes it is very difficult to figure out whether different users belong to the same group or do they belong to different group. Let us take some example. On YouTube there are two different kind of users, definitely. Users who would like to watch videos and users who would like to upload video. These days it has become more clearer that who are these content creators and who are using YouTube as a source of entertainment by watching these videos. But in the beginning phase it wasn't clear, same people were uploading and watching. Phone network, should we consider that in a phone network all users are the same, or should we consider that there are different kind of users, one who would like to call all the time and second who would like to receive all the time? Now when I say all the time, of course it is not true, but we are using the modeling language, we like to take things in extreme. So you can convert it, you can change it, the kind of users who would mostly like to call and users who would mostly like to receive. Online poker game, different on the online platform, different user join. Should we consider all of them in a one group or should we come up with different groups? And we will do a case study to understand it better, and we will use the online poker game as example. Most important question is, does it matter whether these users belong to the same group or different group? As we have seen, it is very important, it does matter. Why does it matter? Because depending on different scenario, you would like to come up with different strategies to enrich, to make your platform better. If all users on the online poker game are the same, then your strategy would be to increase any kind of players. But if they belong to different groups and there may be some negative impact, then you would like to limit those users, those online players who are generating this negative cross group network effect. So it is very important to understand, because ultimately a platform is there to make profit. I am not saying that platform is always for profit, sometimes we can have non-profit platform like Wikipedia, but that is a separate question. If you are interested in profit making, then you need to master your strategy to maximize your payoff, and there it becomes very important that whether you are getting within group or cross group network effect. So let us take the case of an online poker platform. What do we have? We can say we can very safely assume that a platform attractiveness depends on two things. One, for any player, what is the probability of winning, and for any player, how much is waiting time. The attractiveness of platform increases as probability of winning increases for these players, and attractiveness of platform decreases as waiting time for a play increases on platform. Now, one can think of two groups of players. One, we can say highly skilled, and second, we can say low skilled. So, when it comes to waiting time, it does not matter whether a player is high skilled player or low skilled player. More players joining the platform will certainly reduce the waiting time. So, for waiting time, any kind of player is good. How about for winning probability? Winning probability, it's not that simple. For winning probability, if we look at this diagram, it will become clear that high skilled players generate negative within group effect. More players are high skilled on the platform, higher would be likelihood of winning for even a high skilled player. And it also generate negative cross group network effect, because in this group people belong to low skill, they will perhaps lose when pitted against high skill labor. So, they generate negative impact within group and cross group. How about, but even high skilled labor, they on the same side there are two impacts. One is negative, that is coming from winning probability as we discussed, and second is positive because more players will reduce the waiting time. So, here this one will have to look at empirical data to figure out which one is dominating. As opposed to on the high skill side, if you pay attention to the low skill side, they generate positive within group impact. Why? Because they reduce the waiting time, and because the positive winning probability, more low skilled worker, one can say on average the positive winning probability is there, and they definitely generate positive cross group network effect, because high skilled worker will definitely win against low skilled worker. So, this is the situation. Now, there were some researcher led by Vimal, they came up with this, that a poker site is more attractive if more low skilled and or fewer high skilled worker participate. What does it mean? That this winning probability effects dominates the waiting time effect. After all, players are there to win. Now, this will also make it very clear that why it becomes important to figure out whether we have within group network effect or cross group network effect. It was just attraction loop, because waiting time is kind of generating attraction loop. If one player joins, waiting period for everyone reduces, but as we see, the result is different. Winning probability matters. So, that is definitely coming from cross group network effect. So, therefore, it is very important to understand which effects are present. It will help you determine the strategy for the success of your platform. Now, this is a general picture that we have. Of course, here we are assuming the platform has only two groups. This is just representative. In fact, a platform can have multiple group. So, here is group A, here is group B, this is the platform. Here group A is generating some cross group network effect that can be positive, negative, or it can be negligible or not present. Similarly, B can generate cross group network effect on A, that can be positive, that can be negative, that can be negligible. Similarly, a member joining B could generate positive, negative or negligible within group network effect, and same is happening on the A side. So, it is very, very important to determine the exact nature of the network effect when it comes to designing a specific platform strategy, and later on we will talk about a strategy. Today we are learning the basic stuff, we are not talking about platform strategies yet. Now, we have talked about a definition of platform. Let us look at another definition of platform, that is because of Belleflamme and Peitz. The reason we are going to follow this definition because our textbook is based on this definition, and it is in a way simpler also. So, there are two requirements we have when we consider an intermediary a platform. These two requirements are that it should be able to facilitate the interaction between users who are linked by some form of network effect. So, here key thing is that deliberately we are not saying whether it is direct network effect or it is cross group network effect. Some definition we have seen, although I didn't clearly put it in this way, but there the focus was on cross group effect. If you look at Belleflamme and Peitz definition, it doesn't emphasize cross group effect separately than direct network effect. What it says that some sort of network effect should be present among users. And second, that the intermediary that we are considering as platform, it should be managing these network effect in active way. So, there also the key thing is that here we are not saying for profit or for non-profit, it should be managing it. Motive can be anything that we are not getting into. So, the definition is a platform is an entity that brings together economic agents and actively manages network effects between them, and this is the definition we would follow in this particular course. Of course, the key thing, another key thing that comes out from definition is that the agents are not able to manage their affair on their own. They need, when I say they are not able to manage, perhaps they are not able to capture the economic benefit of interaction. For that, perhaps a platform needs to be present as an intermediary. Now, these days there is a lot of focus on digital platform. We are not particularly focusing on digital platform, but we should understand that digital technology has made it easier to fulfill both the requirement of facilitation and of active management. How a digital platform is helping the facilitation? Because a digital platform has a way to lower transaction cost to interact. Search cost has become lower, matching cost has become lower, there is a element of trust in it, and of course there is a reputational mechanism is also present. And similarly, the digital platforms have new tools to manage network effects more actively, and these can be recommendation and rating system. As you see on the Amazon or Flipkart platform, the users can rate each other. Similarly, they have payment system to facilitate transfer of money. They have data analytics, big data they are using to make their platform better, and they are also monitoring transaction. All these things are helping an intermediary to become a better platform. So, this is just an example and we can debate it. I have taken most of these examples from the textbook that these days we know many online digital platform and non-digital platform. So, let us look at them whether they are platform as per the definition given in the previous slide or not. So, original Facebook, the network effect was present within group. I was joining because my friends were there, everyone was of a one kind of user, and that is why we were talking about within group. That is original platform when we didn't had ad and other things. So, we can say the network was Are network effects managed? Of course, Facebook was managing it, and active network effects were present, and therefore it is a platform. Wikipedia, which is not for profit, it had network effects present. More and more people were joining, more and more it was becoming more attractive for others, because some of them were writings there. So we had within group, and it was managed by Jimmy Wells, I think that was that's the name of the founder. So it is a platform. Similarly, for Uber, Esperanto is a language, and it is, in a way, by some definition it can be platform, because there, in any language, there is a network effect present. If more people understand a language, more people speak a language, it becomes more attractive for another person to learn that language. So there is network effect present, yes, within group, but is it, languages are not, other than French has particularly, there is an academy that manages, but it is typically not effectively managed, and Esperanto is a language developed, it is not effectively managed, so it is not a platform. So similarly, you can think of all these different entities, and you can figure out, based on answer of these two questions, that are network effects present and are network effects managed, presence and management. Okay, and if both questions are answered in affirmative, then only we can call that intermediary a platform. So one more, let me do it, and then we will move forward, and that is shopping malls. So here I have a question mark, because one can think of a different kind of shopping mall. The olden days shopping malls were just landlord or the owner would rent out different shops. Perhaps he didn't care about network effect, so we can say network effect was not present, and he was not managing the network effect at all. But now new shopping malls, they are very careful about, you will see the anchor shops. There are anchor shop, so that customer will go to these anchor shops, like big names, marquee names, and because of that they would bring footfall to other shops also. So there we can say that on new shopping malls there are two kinds of shops. One, where people on their own would go to shop, and second, because of some agglomeration or network effect, because other shops are there, you would go, like for food, restaurants and all that, you perhaps most of the small restaurants that you have in mall, you will get that cross group. So in new shopping malls you have cross groups, and the owner is actively managing it to increase the footfall. So we can say the new shopping malls are platforms. So you can think about other examples also. Now the next topic is an very important topic. We will spend some time on these later on also, but to introduce, the platforms are there to create value and capture that value for their own benefit. So the question is, how does a platform create economic value? So one could be by leveraging mutual positive cross group network effect, because the presence of attraction spiral that would bring more and more users. Similarly, by leveraging positive within group network effect, that can be attraction loop, and through standalone product or services, these platform will be able to bundle, like we are not talking about attraction, repulsion, pendulum. So there users on one side are forced to watch ad, because by watching ad they are getting the free content. So we can say that through standalone products or services also, these are the ways a platform creates value. How does a platform capture economic value? One could be by charging user enjoying positive network effect. Here possibly through a new concept that has come, is called freemium. So basic content is available freely, but if you want premium content you have to pay. So freemium strategy works there. and also by offering a bundle including a bad that I was telling here. The bad could be advertising and or transfer of personal or anonymized data. Sell your data, because data is quite attractive these days. So these are the different ways platform captures economic value. So just what we are doing, typology based on value creation and capture. On one side we have value capture and on other side we have value creation. Here we are talking about leveraging within group network effect. Here we are talking about leveraging cross group network effect, and here capitalize on stand-alone service, because here we are talking about capitalizing stand-alone service. Here we are not talking about network effect. So when charge users of service and it is stand-alone, we are saying it is not a platform because it does not have both characteristics of the platform. So let us look at where would you put Facebook, at least original Facebook. On original Facebook it was within group network effect, and how Facebook was monetizing by giving you some advertisement. So this would be here. Similarly, think of Amazon. Amazon would be earlier, Amazon was in the beginning just pipeline kind of a pipeline kind of a business with rating system and all. So therefore we are that rating seat system creates some sort of network effect. That's why we are calling even original Amazon as a platform. So it had within group network effect present and it was charging user of services. So it is Amazon. Now we have Amazon marketplace where different kind of users are interacting belonging to different groups. So now we have in new Amazon that started I think 15-20 years back, not the original Amazon, it has marketplace. So we can say it's leveraging cross group network effect and it is charging by user of service. YouTube has two versions. One is that you have to watch ads if you want to watch your favorite content, or you can avoid ad by paying money to YouTube, and that is called YouTube Premium. But in both group you have cross group network effect, because one can say these days that content creator and YouTube watchers they belong to different groups. So you have cross group and there are different ways of capturing the value. So this is the basic idea. These types are important to understand, because if you want to study platform and on internet or different books you will read, there are different classification available, but the classification is just to help us get the handle of situation, because you have to think about them and you need a perspective. So this definition and this kind of table is giving you a perspective to understand. Please understand, this is not the perspective, this is just a perspective. Okay. Now let us move to the last topic. Now let us talk about how can we calculate the market demand when network effect is present. We started talking about it during the last week. We are going to become more specific in this week. So the model is very simple. We have just two users, let us call them X and Y, and they both have unit demand for good. What does it mean? That either they purchase 0 unit or 1 unit. No discrete number is possible. We say that their intrinsic values are Rx and Ry respectively. What does it mean? If the cost or price, whatever you want to call it, if A is greater than Rx, then user X will not purchase. If Rx is greater than or equal to A, then only user A will purchase. And similarly you can think of user Y also. User Y purchases this good only if Ry happens to be greater than or equal to the cost of this good A. Now without loss of any generality, we say that Rx is greater than Ry. It covers all the situation. Whoever has higher intrinsic value, we call that person X, and the other person is called Y. We are missing one, which is when they both have same intrinsic value. It is not interesting, and therefore we are not going to discuss it, and we have already discussed that cost per unit is A. So, if network effect is not present, how would the demand function look like? So, we can say if A is greater than Rx, it also means because Rx is greater than Ry, the demand, we can say quantity demanded is going to be equal to 0, because neither X will purchase nor Y will purchase. If Rx happens to be greater than or equal to A and A is greater than Ry, Q is going to be 1, because X will purchase and Y will not purchase. So, total amount purchased is 1. And if so happens that Ry is greater than or equal to A, clearly Rx is always greater than Ry, then Q is going to be equal to 2. So, here for each price we get the demand. So, we have here quantity and on y axis we have cost. Without losing anything, let us mark Rx here and Ry here. What does it mean? That if A is greater than Rx, Q is equal to 0. If it is Rx, Q can be 0 or Q can be 1. In fact, it would be 1 the way we have defined, because when we say Rx is greater than or equal to A, then X is going to purchase. So, in that way it would be 1, but if we allow that if Rx is equal to A can purchase, or so X can purchase, or X can decide not to purchase. So, this is 1, and for all this range this is going to be 1, and from Y it is going to be 2, and for all the price it is going to be 2. So, very clearly what do we get? We can say the characteristics of the demand function, we can say two things. One, we can say roughly, of course there is no downward sloping curve because we have only 2%, but roughly we can say that as price decreases, quantity either increases or remains same. So, with a decrease in price, total quantity cannot decrease, and this is what we have. If you think of Eco 901, something like this we had obtained there. And second, for each price we have, for almost each, because let me put almost, because at Rx and Ry we have some doubt, for almost each price we have unique quantity demanded. So, these are two characteristics, and even second one we can take out the almost term if we become particular about our definition. So, we can say roughly that demand function is a downward sloping curve, and for each price we have unique quantity that demand function gives. So, we have seen how to figure out, we refreshed our memory about how to figure out market demand in a very simple setting when there are only two users and they can either purchase or not purchase. Only 0 and 1 are possible. So, either demand could be for 0 good, 1 unit or 2 units. What we have figured out, that demand is a downward sloping curve, and at each price we have only one quantity demanded. Now, we are going to introduce network effect. What do we mean by network effect? That there is an additional benefit of beta if the other user also purchases the good. So, clearly we are talking about positive network effect, and that beta value is given. And what is the example? Let us say that a nice movie has come. I have to decide whether I want to see the movie or I do not want to see the movie, and I am X, my gain is Rx and my wife's gain is Ry. If I watch this movie alone, my gross gain is Rx and my wife's gross gain is Ry. But if I watch this movie with my wife, my gross gain becomes Rx plus beta, and if my wife watches this movie with me, her gross gain becomes Ry plus beta. If we subtract the cost, we get the net gain. So, here we have to talk about conditionality and interdependence. Conditionality will become clearer later on. First, let us focus on interdependence. So, my gain now does not only depend on what I do, whether I purchase the ticket or I do not purchase the ticket. My gain also depends on what my wife does. And the assumption here is that my wife and I both are deciding it independently and simultaneously. That is very, very key. We are not deciding it together, we are deciding independently and simultaneously. What does this simultaneously mean? Just to refresh your memory, that it means that when I am deciding whether to purchase the ticket or not to purchase the ticket, I do not know what my wife has decided. And when my wife is deciding, she does not know what is my decision. Something like this we did in one of the weeks in Eco 901, and in fact Eco 904 was completely devoted to discuss interdependent situation. So, now for demand derivation we need to have a table, and this table is called by matrix table. In each of the boxes we will have two numbers. One number will, like for example, a number will be written here, a number here. The first number in any of the boxes gives the payoff to row player, and the second number gives the payoff to column player. And in this box the payoffs are written based on the fact that both X and Y have decided to purchase the ticket. So, because X and Y both are deciding to purchase the ticket, X's gain, standalone gain is Rx, and because there is a network effect is present, so Rx plus beta, beta is network effect and A is cost, and similarly here Ry plus beta minus A. This is the situation. Here in this box, row player X is buying, purchasing, and the column player is not purchasing. So, column player's payoff is going to be 0, and there would not be any network effect because gain depends if other person is doing the same thing. So, here gain, net gain to X would be Rx minus A. Similarly, here we can write here Ry minus A, and here you will have 0 0. This is also called game table, and we have a normal form game. So, I have just written the same game here, and now we can figure out, can we get a Nash equilibrium here, can we get a Nash equilibrium here, here or here. So, we can look at the 4 scenario. Can we ever have Nash equilibrium? Let us sort don't by to dB, here also dB. Can we have dB comma dB as Nash equilibrium ever? What is the requirement? That player, row player should not able to move vertically, because from dB row player can decide to purchase B if that is advantageous. So, 0 has to be greater than or equal to Rx minus A. In other word, that Rx should be less than or equal to A to decide player X to not to buy, given that player Y is not buying. And similarly for player 2 can move horizontally in this way. So, 0 must be at least as good as Ry minus A, implying that A has to be less than, A has to be greater than or equal to Ry, and then only we will have by. So what is the situation here? Because Rx is already greater than Ry. If A is greater than Rx, it will automatically be greater than Ry. So we can say the situation here is, if Rx is greater than A, they both don't buy. Second, can we have where player 1 decides to buy? This box we are talking about, player 1, the first is the strategy for player 1, and the second player continues not to buy. So it means Rx minus A has to be better than 0, or at least as good as 0. So the situation is Rx minus A is greater than or equal to 0, and 0 has to be at least as good as Ry plus beta minus A, because y can deviate from don't buy to buy. So this is 0 is greater than Ry plus beta minus A. So from first one we get Rx is greater than or equal to A, and in the second one we get A is greater than Ry plus B, or in other word we can combine these two. That's the implication, that is Rx is greater than A and A is greater than Ry plus B. We get that row player buys and the column player doesn't buy. How about the third situation? The third situation is that row player decides not to buy, but the column player decides to buy. It means this 0 has to be better, at least as good as Rx plus beta minus A, and Ry minus A has to be greater than or equal to A. This is simply not possible because, this is greater than Ry minus A has to be greater than or equal to 0, because it says Ry has to be greater than or equal to A. This is what it says. But if Ry is greater than or equal to A, Rx is also greater than or equal to A, and Rx plus beta is definitely going to be greater than or equal to A. So these two cannot be simultaneously fulfilled. So we can say this is not going to happen ever. And the fourth situation is that they both buy. When do they both buy? When Rx plus beta minus A is greater than or equal to 0 and Ry plus beta minus A is greater than or equal to 0, because player row can deviate in this direction and column can deviate in this direction here. So we have Ry plus beta minus A greater than or equal to 0. It means that Rx plus beta has to be greater than or equal to A. If this is the situation, this is automatically fulfilled because Rx is greater than Ry. So we can have a scenario, we can consider two scenarios. This is possible, this particular thing, the second condition that we have discussed, this is Rx A greater than Ry plus B. This happens only if Rx minus Ry is greater than or equal to B. There is also a possibility that Rx minus Ry is less than or equal to B. In this case, we have to become careful the way we go about it. So we can have two scenarios. We can go further. We can say here, if this two categories we are talking about, one which is B is Rx minus Ry, it means that the difference between the valuation is large enough to overcome the network effect. Other situation we can have that beta is greater than Rx minus Ry. But let us first discuss the case when beta is less than Rx minus Ry. So, here is, we can say, here is a line and we can say this is Ry, here is Rx, and because this can also be written as that Rx is greater than Ry plus beta. So, this is, here we can say Ry plus beta. Clearly Rx plus beta will be higher than A, and we can consider the scenario. We have figured out in the previous slide, and we will put all the information that we have from previous slide here. So, let us go back. We can say that if Ry is less than or equal to A, no one purchases. This will imply that Rx, Ry is less than or equal to A, they both do not buy. We can say By to say that Y purchases and Bx to say that X purchases. Just in short, we can say here. So, in this zone we can say Y purchases, Y certainly purchases, or we can say By. We can say here By if Bx, Y only purchases if X also purchasing. Why? Because now there is a network effect that increases the value for Y. So, but network effect comes into play only if X is purchasing. So, that is the case, and from here onward Y does not purchase. Now, let us look at X. X will have similar situation. Here till this point Bx, meaning the X certainly purchases. This zone, what happens in this zone? In this zone X purchases if Y purchases, and here X does not purchase. So, we can write them together. What we do, what do we get? We get here, let us see, this is one cutoff, this is can be another cutoff, this can be another cutoff, this can be another cutoff. So, let us write here what is happening. In this zone Y is purchasing, X is purchasing. So, we can say both purchase. What is happening in this zone? In this zone Y purchases if X is purchasing, but X is certainly purchasing till here. It means they both purchase. What happens here in this zone? Y does not purchase, X is certainly purchasing here. So, X only purchases. What happens here? Y certainly is not purchasing and X purchases if Y is purchasing. It means that X will also not purchase. So, no purchase, and of course, here no one purchases. So, what do we get from here? Now, we can say if A is less than or equal to Ry plus beta, they both purchase. If A is greater than Ry plus beta, or we can remove this equal to sign, and less than or equal to X, X purchases. And if A is greater than Rx, no one purchases. So, if we draw, we get the curve like here is Rx and here is Ry plus beta, this is Rx. So, we get the demand curve that looks like this. This is 1 and this is 2. So we get exactly the same situation as earlier with a change. Now that cutoff is happening at Ry plus beta instead of Ry. The point is that if you look at the characteristics, still it is roughly a downward sloping curve, and roughly for each price there is a unique quantity demanded. So qualitatively nothing is changing. Now consider the strong network effect where Ry plus beta is greater than Rx. Okay. So here let us draw, here is Ry, here is Rx, here is Ry plus beta, here is Rx plus beta, and A is increasing in this direction. So what is happening if let us look at Y. In this zone till here Y always purchases, and in this zone Y purchases if X purchases, and here Y doesn't purchase. So in presence, the basic idea, even if we don't make the table, you should understand that the presence of X in the movie theater increases the value for Y by beta amount. Earlier it was Ry, it becomes Ry plus beta. So if the price of the movie ticket is less than Ry, even if X is not there, Y would like to go to movie theater and purchase the ticket. But if price happens to be greater than Ry but less than Ry plus beta, watching movie is still good if X is also watching the movie. So same logic you have to do for the X side also. So we will do the same thing here. Now till this point X certainly purchases, X certainly purchases, and after this point in this zone X purchases if Y purchases, and in this zone, because you know if price is more than Rx plus beta, even Y's presence would not make watching that movie worth because the price is too high, the X doesn't purchase. So now what we can do, we can bring these two things together, we can say, we can still do the same thing like we did earlier. In each zone we see what's happening. So for the zone let us do this, 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 and these are the zone. So in this zone Y purchases, X purchases. In this zone Y purchases if X purchases, but X is certainly purchasing. So we can say Y and X both purchase. What's happening here? That X purchases if Y purchases and Y purchases if X purchases. This is an interesting case. So we can have here that either both X and Y purchase or none of them purchase. This is very interesting. How about in this zone? This zone no one buys. Why? Because X wants to purchase. If X is certain, Y is purchasing, but Y doesn't purchase. So in this zone no one purchases. So you see now there is a conditionality, still we have, now things have changed, downward sloping curve is there in a way, not you know. So it's possible that so what is happening, that these are the two different, you know. So in this zone demand can be 2 or it can be 0. This is very, very interesting. While in this case, demand is definitely 1. So now that downward sloping thing is gone. We cannot say it is downward sloping, and we cannot say that in this zone what is going to happen, whether the demand is going to be equal to 2 or demand is going to be equal to 0. So network effect has changed the basic characteristics of the demand curve. So what we can say, in summary, that weak network effect, demand function similar to benchmark case, the earlier case we had without the network effect. Second, larger set of price for which both users buy. Earlier both users were buying when price was lower than RY. Now both users are buying with network effect when price is lower than RY plus beta. So that is the change, but roughly it's, it looks the same. Now when you have strong network effect, two major transformation in the demand function. No price such that only one user buy the good. Either they both of them buy or none of them buy. And in fact the same price may give rise to two different quantities. So coordination becomes important, and that's where platform can play a very, very important role. Platform's policy could be such that it could bring both X and Y, and its policy could be such that none of them come. So there is unpredictability as a consequence. For intermediate fees, no way to know a priori whether the good will be adopted or not. And potential inefficiency, if A is less than RY plus beta, both users are better off if they buy, and A greater than X, user may not buy at equilibrium. But here in this case it's also possible that you can have zero demand. So what's happening? Network effect makes user purchasing decision interdependent. As a result, there can be several level of demand for the same P. Of course, in this particular case we saw only two levels of demand. We had only two consumers, two users, but you can have several different levels of demand if you have more people, making it hard to predict a priori what users will decide and giving rise to potential inefficiency, as user may fail to purchase the product, although this would make all of them better off. So this is a very new kind of scenario. In the next week we will get into a model when we have more than two users, and we are also going to talk about pricing in case of these networks good and presence of platform. Thank you.